The Nintendo GameCube is a really special console to me, and that's because it was the first console I ever owned that was 100% mine. When I was born, my brother already had an NES and an SNES, and then when we got the N64, we had to share it. So by the time the GameCube came around, my older brother wasn't as into video games as I was around that time, and I begged my mom to get me one for Christmas, and she did, surprisingly. Of course, I was technically sharing it with my sister, but it was basically mine. I'm the only one who really played it, and I just love the console. It has such a wide variety of awesome games, and some of those games I would love to see come back, remade from the ground up for Nintendo Switch. Now I'm talking fully remade from the ground up. Sure, they can have the same mechanics and whatnot, but graphically a huge overhaul, similar to Shadow of the Colossus that released on PS4 last year. The first one on my list is, without a doubt, Resident Evil 4. This is probably my favorite game of all time. I say this all the time. There's like 4 games that I constantly swap back and forth between, but this one is always on the list. It's probably my favorite game ever. I've beaten this game more than any other game in the world, probably in the 70s. I'm not joking. You know, when you grow up in a lower income family, you kind of tend to play the same game over and over again, and this was that game for me. I played it nonstop for about like almost 4 years probably, and I beat it over and over and over. If this game had like trophies, like a platinum trophy on PlayStation, I would have platinumed this game probably like 6 times. That's how much I've played it. So I don't even know where to start. I love the campiness of this game. I love the funny writing, the characters. I like how it's a smaller enclosed story. It's not a huge convoluted story. It's nice and small. You're pretty much sent into this area to save the president's daughter. Simple enough. Little do you know, you're actually going to wind up getting in a ton of crazy situations that are unforgettable. Like just walking into this creepy village at first and just seeing the first bad guy, you're like, these aren't zombies, but they're still just as creepy as zombies. And the way Capcom did this, where you pretty much take out the first guy and it almost feels like you're shooting just a crazy person, which weighs on you a lot more than just shooting a zombie in the head. Like, these are real people just with a Las Plagas disease inside of them that drives them insane. So each kill actually seems like it has meaning, at least initially. The game starts off slow, but immediately ramps to 100 when there's a ton of bad guys coming your way and you're just destroying everyone in your path. And I'll never forget the first time that chainsaw guy came out and I pretty much peed my pants and got my head chopped off, which was just so graphic and so gory for a game that came out in like 2005 or 2004. And not just that, but the gun upgrade system in the game was so addicting. You constantly wanted to replay the game over and over just to get that next exclusive upgrade for your gun. Now, Capcom keeps putting this game on every single console, but it's just this version still. Oh, still technically the PS2 version, up-res to HD with a ton of content, but I want something that graphically holds up in 2019, and sadly, these graphics, they age pretty poorly. I mean, they're not terrible, but I want a game that just looks jaw-dropping awesome. Now, I could keep going on and on about this game, but I want to try and keep it short per game. So Resident Evil 4 is just amazing. If you haven't played this game, you really need to. I would love if a remake came to Switch or PS4 or Xbox One, but it's probably not going to happen. They're remaking 2, but I highly doubt they get to this one. But, you know, you never know. You never know. I didn't expect them to remake 2. So my next game on the list is Super Mario Sunshine. This, in my opinion, is an underrated Mario game. It seems every time I see people's lists, they have Mario Sunshine like toward the bottom, like when they're ranking their favorite Marios. I'm just like, what are you thinking? This game was gorgeous for the time. If you play it on an emulator nowadays, it still ages like a fine wine up-res to HD. It doesn't even look like it's a game that came out like, I don't even know how long, like 15 years ago. This game's got to be so old by now. It just looks great still, and it plays pretty well. Obviously, it's a bit wonky, the camera's a bit weird, but that's something they could easily fix nowadays. It's one of those quality of life changes they could easily implement in a newer version on Switch. And like I was saying, this game is gorgeous, but I could just see it now. See it on Switch, remade from the ground up with beautiful graphics. Like, if you've seen the water levels in Super Mario Odyssey, then you know what I'm talking about. That game's gorgeous. Just imagine them really focusing on giving us awesome water in an HD Mario game. Like, it might actually give Sea of Thieves a run for its money. Obviously, the Switch isn't as powerful as those other consoles, but Nintendo, man, they got that magic where they're just able to give us these beautiful games on hardware that's not like top of the line. So kudos to Nintendo for that. But yeah, I want to see Super Mario Sunshine remade for Nintendo Switch and just, you know, fix a lot of quality of life stuff, like the camera situation, the platforming can feel a little wonky and whatnot, but it's easy changes and the levels are like brilliantly created. It's such an underrated Mario game. I just don't understand why it's not a big deal. It implemented FLUDD, this like jetpack stuff, and we haven't really seen any big changes like that in a mainline Mario game. Of course, in Odyssey, you can turn into a bunch of different things, but it's a bunch of different gimmicks. It's not just one gimmick where you have to implement in various different ways throughout these worlds and levels and whatnot. Now my next one on the list is pretty random, especially for me because I'm not a big sports guy, but Super Mario Strikers is still a blast to play. This is a game I still pull out with my GameCube when my friends come over, and we have a blast every single time. From a gameplay perspective, hell, and visually, the game just ages like a fine wine. Like, Nintendo really nailed it when it came to their cartoony art style that just ages so well, and Super Mario Strikers is one of those games. And you know, this is one of those few times where you see characters from the Mushroom Kingdom really have a personality. Like, they are pissed at each other while they're playing soccer, out of all things. Like, you really get to see how angry Mario looks and these Koopas, and it's just really funny because we've never really seen these characters quite like this before. And you know, like I was saying, from a gameplay perspective, it's just the best type of soccer. I'm not like a realistic sports guy. I can't get into it. It just seems a little boring in my opinion. But you know, when it comes to crazy sports games like Blitz and Rocket League, and hell, even like Street, the basketball series back on GameCube as well, I'm just a much bigger fan of the crazy, zany sports games rather than the realistic stuff. But you know, that's just preference. But like I was saying, Super Mario Strikers is so underrated. I cannot believe they're not still making these games. And you know, it's a series I really hope we see again one day. I think it would really thrive on Nintendo Switch. I think if they remade it, updated the graphics, hell, give us the same gameplay, and I think people will have so much fun. So that's definitely one on my list. Now, another one I can't go without mentioning is technically two games, and it's the Sonic Adventure games. Sonic Adventure DX and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I love these games as a kid. I was obsessed with these games as a kid. I played the older Sonic games on Sega Genesis, and I loved those. But then when I got introduced to this 3D, basically kind of open world at that time, and it had Sonic with all the characters I loved, it was just amazing. Like, the story was actually pretty interesting for a Sonic game. The characters were funny, the writing was pretty charming, and you know, the gameplay was actually fun. And you know, it was the start of something really awesome with Sonic 3D games, and then I just really think Sega like sort of fell off. I don't really think the newer games are as good as the older ones, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I really like these two first Sonic 3D games, and I just think they would look awesome on Switch. Upgraded, looking great, feeling great, and recently the director said that's actually something he would be interested in. So I don't know, maybe they've actually already started on it, and he was just kind of hinting, trying to see what people are thinking of the idea of getting a remake. But I don't know, I just love those two games. There's not much else to say about them. Wait, yes there is. The Chows. Bring back Chows, Sega. Everybody loved Chows. Why weren't they in Sonic Heroes? Why weren't they in the Sonic reboot? Why? Why, Sega? I love those freaking things. Playing through the levels, getting them food, upgrading them, mating them, trying to create these legendary Chows, doing all sorts of fun things, competing in races and wrestling. And honestly, I actually had more fun with the Chows aspect than the actual storyline of the game, which is pretty funny. But let me know, were you obsessed with the Chows like I was? Because I just could not stop playing that game because of the Chows. Like, Sega, what were you thinking getting rid of them? I would have kept buying the games if you kept them in the games. Okay, sorry, had to go on a little tangent right there. I just love Chows, guys. So anyway, my next game on the list is Starfox Adventures. Okay guys, I'm sorry. Honestly, I just really like the game. A lot of people hate it, but I really liked it, and I would love to see it remade on Switch. It wasn't a real Star Fox game, of course. It started as a totally different IP, and then they were like, hey, let's make this a Star Fox game. It'll probably sell more, and it disappointed a lot of people. But, you know, I really liked it. It was like an action-adventure game with amazing graphics and just a fun open world to explore. It kind of felt like a Zelda game at the time, and I think that's why I loved it so much. And graphically, it still looks perfectly fine if you up-res it to HD, pretty much just like every game Nintendo develops. So I think it would look good on Switch if they remade it, or hell, just ported it. I actually really like the game. So next up, I'll move on to the next one really fast because I know that one's going to upset a lot of people. Well, two GameCube games I loved already got remade on Wii U, and I'm just waiting for those ports on Switch because I want to be able to take them with me wherever I go, and that's Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. Those remakes, actually, The Wind Waker was more of a remake, whereas Twilight Princess was just kind of more of up-resed and ported. Like, honestly, they're some of the best games ever made, in my opinion. I know Twilight Princess gets some crap, but I love that game. I think the temples are amazing. I would love to replay it on Switch and just, you know, update the graphics a little bit, get people to jump in, and I think people enjoy it some more. Hell, maybe they can even shorten the beginning of Twilight Princess to get people into the action a bit quicker. You know, just quality of life changes that a lot of these games just need, and they'll feel like modern games, and which is pretty crazy, and once again, kudos to Nintendo for really nailing a brilliant game design way back 10 years ago. It's just like they just make some amazing games. That's all I got, guys. Those are the games that I would love to see remade on Nintendo Switch, or hell, even PS4 or Xbox One, anything. I just want more people to play these awesome games, because I mean, what's crazy is there's some kids who were born in the year 2000 and never even really experienced GameCube as a generation, which just blows my mind. Now they're adults literally driving around, going to jobs and working, and they never even might have played a GameCube game, which is just makes me feel really old, and I'm not even that old. So I want these games on Nintendo Switch, but I want to know what games you want to see. What's some of your favorite Nintendo GameCube games? Did I miss any, or is there one that maybe you think I'm crazy for not adding to my list? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I will talk to you guys later.